Well, everyone, this is Vickerman, and I'm back. Had a little bit of a time with no videos on the channel, just because of extended illness that I'm just getting over now. It's been kind of impossible to record with that going on. But we are starting back today. We're streaming. This is going to go to YouTube as well, of Stellaris, which just came out literally like an hour and a half ago. So, hope you are ready to check this out. I've done a very little bit so far. I did not get pre-release access, so this is my first day in the game. So let's check out the species and empire creator. As you can see, we got different sections, which is pretty sweet. Mammals, you got humans, all sorts of different things. Is that like a donkey or something? Weird baboon and anteaters and all sorts of things. That is strange. Porcupine, I guess. It's a platypus man. Now that's quite the thing. And of course a fox, good old fox. And what we're doing now is we're just running through the Empire Creator. I've already actually created one that I'm going to be playing with, and we'll see that shortly. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of the options that are available. Oh, that's kind of a neat thing. I kind of like the idea of, because a lot of these have basically like human bodies with a weird head, but I really like some of these that are just totally different looking creatures. Of course, Space Hydra, you know, the Hydrals from Last Federation. It'd be a fun race to play. That's pretty sweet looking, I must say. Ooh. Oh my. This one has a face down here. Apparently that's a female too. I'm not sure how you know that, but ooh, look at that. It's a very aristocratic looking mushroom guy. There's the Blorg. Okay, so I think I will just pick, for the purposes of this creation thing, I think I'm going to pick that thing. And what should we call this? Whatever that is. I think I'm gonna, yeah, we'll just hit random. Grolferp, of course, Grolferp makes sense. And this is kind of cool because you can set different name lists, and it's pretty easy, I think, to create your own lists in the game file. And what you can do is put in a prefix, such as, you know, USSS, USS, SS, whatever you want to do. You can even do something yeah, whatever you want to be the prefix, and you can see it now adds it to the ship name list, and each ship is going to have that as a prefix. For this, just since we're just running through this, I'm just going to pick maybe a mollusk and go through. Now the racial traits is pretty sweet. I do think that there are fewer negative traits than I would like. I was wondering about a short-lived negative trait, but they don't appear to have that. They have the slightly positive plus 30 lifespan and plus 120 lifespan, which is very expensive. You have to get quite a few negative traits to make that work. You can pick 4 traits total. You start out being able to take 2 positives. So you could just do one positive and 1 positive. You could do a double positive and just leave it at that, or you could be a little more creative here. So we've got agrarian, thrifty, and industrious. These are just plus 15% to the 3 main resources in the game. That'd be food, energy, and minerals. Intelligent gives you a plus 10% to all research. And then these natural engineers, physicists, sociologists, there are 3 different kinds of research. We got society, physics, and engineering. It's 15%, so it's a bigger bonus, but it's only for 1, whereas intelligence is 10% to all research. So it is better because you get a 30% bonus instead of a 15. Extremely adaptive. I've heard this is quite a good trait, which is why it's costs 5. Because it lets you live on better or less good worlds, basically. And then there's the more minor version of that. And there's a negative one associated with that. Rapid breeders, slow breeders. Pretty self-explanatory. Population growth rate. Talented gives you more leader skill levels. And then it's basically when they basically start a level ahead. And this is faster experience gain, which is pretty nice too. We got very strong and strong. So basically, army and mining stuff gives you a bonus to that, or you can take a negative 20 to army damage. That's nice that it doesn't give you negative minerals for that. Nomadic, sedentary, has to do with populations moving between your planets. Can be a good thing, can not be a good thing, depending on your situation. Basically just 5% happiness, or negative. And slight bonus to relations with other creatures, I believe. Or the negative. We could do ethics divergence. Basically, we'll set the ethics when we get to the Empire screen. And ethics divergence allows your populations to, over time, drift to different ethics besides the ones you pick. So that can, over time, change your population. We've talked about the long life. This one is minus 10% resource output without slaves. There's not really a positive to that trait that is in the same vein. But basically it makes you kind of need to have slaves for your empire. And resilient gives you basically like better defense in your home planets. So we'll take that, and these are pretty nasty. We'll take repugnant. And I think maybe I'll give them intelligent. We can pick one more trait, but we can't do a positive one, so we'd have to do a negative one, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We can change the leader here. And color variants. Your people basically have all of these color variants in the game as you go. But for that guy, we don't have much in the way of options. So we can just sort of hit random here for a little bit. You can pick the starting world that the Empire begins with. We got continental, which is like Earth. Ocean, pretty self-explanatory, 90% water covering the surface. Arctic, of course, cold, icy. Tundra, similar to Arctic, but not quite as cold. Arid, dry, rocky. And then the more extreme version, I suppose, is the desert. Then we have tropical worlds, which are, I guess ocean doesn't necessarily mean that it's hot and tropically. We kind of associate that with it on a continental world like our own, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. We've got thick atmosphere, precipitation, most landmass covered in dense vegetation. I think that will work. And you can have specific system layouts to begin with. Sol and Deneb, which I'm not sure what Deneb is. Maybe that's what the developers used at the time. But Sol will give you basically starting on Earth. You have Mercury, Venus, Mars, and such. Let's pick. You can pick your look of the cities. And they're based on the phenotypes that you pick for your race. So we'll just go with that. Here's where the fun starts, I think, as far as picking your empire. And what your priorities are going to be. So basically you have a wheel. Opposite sides are opposite traits. So you have militaristic, which means you get bonuses to army damage, war happiness, makes it harder to form alliances. The opposite of pacifist gives you more embassies, makes it harder to fight, extra food. So yeah, I mean, this helps maintain a stable domestic policy. This makes you a better warrior. Xenophile and xenophobe. Yeah, he is a little odd looking. 6 eyes, I guess. So we've got xenophile. Means they love other aliens. They love alien life. They like to get to know people. So I'm guessing that that means that when you bring other races into your empire, they're not going to be as... it's not going to be as much of a problem. And if you go xenophobe, makes your people xenophobic. I'm guessing that'll have some effect down the line, causing rebellions if you have a multi-racial empire. It also increases the tolerance of slavery for aliens. So if you want slaves, that's one way to do it. You've got spiritualist as opposed to materialist. Basically research bonus or happiness bonus. But again, that'll have more effects as we go in the game, actually. Collectivist is going to be... Here's another way to get slave tolerance. It also decreases food consumption. Individualism is the opposite. It gives you a slight bonus to money, but makes your people very, 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 very not want to have slavery, and allows them to kind of think for themselves. So you have ethics divergence. Your population will slowly drift away from your core ethical values, which might cause you problems. So these guys, I think we're gonna go with I think we picked sort of a scientific or intelligence as one of our racial traits. So we'll get materialist, and I don't know, these guys don't seem like they would be particularly collective. So I'm thinking maybe they have fanatic individualism. Oh, I didn't talk about fanatic is kind of the... It costs 2 ethic points to go that far. And it's sort of a big swing one way. Sort of an intensifier of the non-fanatical one. But I think this fits this race that we're going for. And depending on the ethics that you choose, then you can choose a government type over here. And as you can see, we only have 2 options because of the way we've chosen our traits. So we have a direct democracy. Citizens use computer networks to vote directly on most matters regarding the state. Core sector planets +2, so that means we can control directly more planets before we have to create sectors. Indirect democracy. Citizens vote on officials who are elected to represent them. This is akin to U.S. democracy, I would say. This is more sort of a... We've never really had this in the human race. But basically, it's an ideal form of democracy where everyone chooses everything. Which, if we've invented warp travel, why couldn't you do that? Technically, I think that the bonus for indirect is better but I like the idea of direct for this race here, especially the fanatical individualism. Empire name. Consensus of Caravan. What's really sweet is the way these names are constructed is based on the government type you choose. So you'll see we've got Confederacy, Union of Caravan, Confederated, Dominions, Coalition, United, Concordant of Caravan, Grolferp Union. And so say we had like a monarchy, then you'd see like kingdom, empire, stuff like that. You're not going to see that here. I like the idea of the... I think I saw it earlier, but I don't want to click random too much. I like consensus. That makes sense for what we're going for with these guys. And we now do our flag. Pick an emblem basically, and then you choose the flag background and the colors. It's actually very similar to what they've done with Crusader Kings 2 Dynasty Designer. I kind of like that purple and black. That's pretty good. But I think we need a different emblem. I want to say domination. This was something that came with the little clicker game that they did before release. So if you have a Paradox account, I think you can get the key to this, because this is a tiny little DLC thing. But I think if you have a Paradox account, you may have it on your account now. So check it at paradox.com or whatever their website is, and you click over to keys, and you should see this if you, I don't know if you had to have signed up for the game beforehand. Oh, I like that, but maybe not that pattern. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And now you choose starting weapons. They have different traits like projectile, limited range, but they take out shields pretty quickly. These things are good at going through armor, the energy lasers, and they are medium to close range. So close, medium to close, and this is long range for missiles, but they can be shot down basically with point defense. I'm not sure what the best option here for these guys is going to be, but I'm thinking maybe they would go with some missiles. We have FTL. So there's 3 different ways to go between stars. Warp travel is sort of the basic. You can go to any star you want. It's slower though. As opposed to hyperspace, hyperspace travel has the lines between the star systems that you travel through. And this is really the standard of 4X. Like most 4X games use this sort of way with specific lanes that you have to take between the star systems. And you see it in EVE Online as well. There's warp gates that lead between specific systems. And they only go certain ways. So there can be choke points in the galaxy that way. Wormhole is very weird because you build these stations and then you can go anywhere you want, basically instantaneously within the range of the wormhole. So that's kind of cool. It leaves you a little vulnerable if people go in there and destroy your wormhole stations. But I think maybe we'll go with... probably just warp travel for these guys. And I think we were going molluscoid. I think that sort of works for them. And this is the sort of thing that they'll probably have some DLC packs for as well, so you have different looks to your ships. But I think we will go with molluscoid. And that's really it, the Grolferp consensus. So we'll save that. And I'm going to go back. Now they're on my list, and I can choose whether to allow them to spawn as an AI empire. I could force them to spawn as an AI empire, or I can make sure they don't. Looks like I can't do anything about these other ones that are the basic. These come with the game. You can see the Blorg are not on here, which is kind of too bad. They were the race that Paradox was doing on their pre-release streams, and they're still doing. And this is very much your Star Trek human race. And yeah, that makes sense. And this is another version of humans that are much more militaristic. That's kind of cool. So, I did say that I had created a race that I wanted to play, and that is the Kerbals from Kerbal Space Program. I did the best that I could to try to find something that sort of looked like them, and that's as close as I could get. So basically, let me run through what we've done for them. Continental world, of course, Kerbin. We are going to force the people I just made to go into our game, though. So we will see them. So, they are fanatic xenophiles. They love... because the Kerbals love to explore. They love to find new things. I assume that if they ever encountered alien life, they would be ecstatic about it. Also, the Kerbals are not militaristic at all. Like, they are definitely a peaceful race. And that's part of the reason that I think they have never added weaponry in Kerbal Space Program, at least in the base game. You can mod it in, obviously. So those are the two ethos that I chose for the Kerbals, and that led us to a peaceful bureaucracy. And I had quite a few options. I could do direct democracy and stuff like that. Yes, other races will love me too. But I chose bureaucracy because Kerbal Space Program has a bunch of bureaucrats in it, because you know the game is in the Space Administration. You have Gene Kerman and all them. So I thought that fit, and it gives you some pretty good bonuses, I think, to your leaders. So I think that works pretty well. Our traits are natural engineers, because they're great at building spaceships. Weak, because the Kerbals are little green men. I think it fits. It also gives me more points. Rapid breeders, because you can kill them off real quick, but they keep coming back. Nomadic, because they like to go to different star systems and such. They like to explore. Chose energy weapons just because. Hyperspace travel just for kicks and giggles, and we picked human-looking ships because Kerbal ships look more human than anything else. Our starting leader is Jebediah Kerman. So let's get going. The Grolferps will be in our galaxy, but we're going to play as the Kerbals. And let's check out some of the options. You can go up to like 1,000 stars. That's insane. I'm going to go with medium. That's still going to be quite big. Now, this is going to be pretty important for us because we picked hyperspace as the galaxy shape. Elliptical means that basically the galaxy is a big ring and stars are kind of spread evenly all the way around. At least from what I understand. So that means that there are going to be more intersections for the hyperspace lanes. As opposed to spiral galaxies, which have arms. And so the hyperspace lanes will be kind of limited down the arms, and they'll kind of come to a central location. And there will be choke points for us that may not be relevant for warp or wormhole travel races. And then ring, I think that means that the middle is basically pretty empty, and then there's sort of a outer ring of planets. So again, that affects us because of hyperspace lane travel. But I think I'm going to do a 4-arm spiral. I just think that's going to be more interesting. I kind of like the idea of choke points that I have to worry about. AI empires, we can go up to 23. But for medium, we'll do that. Advanced AI starts. How many will have an initial advantage in resources, technology, and population? Does not affect fallen empires. So this means that certain AI will be more powerful. Maybe 2 of them will be more powerful. I don't like giving a bunch of bonuses. Any FTL method, or you can restrict it for the AI. We'll just keep normal difficulty. Not doing Iron Man because things happen when you're streaming. Which is too bad because, again, they've done the whole thing where you can't get achievements unless you do Iron Man. Which means I might put in 300 hours of Stellaris and never get an achievement. Alright, so with the United Kerbal States, a peaceful bureaucracy under Jebediah Kerman. The Kerbal race, hyperspace travel on the planet of Kerbin. In the eons since the first primitive Kerbal communities took shape on the grassy savannas of Kerbin, our civilization has spread and prospered. Unfortunately, our undisciplined minds were still prone to emotional outbursts that could sometimes lead to violence. As weapons became more deadly with each passing technological age, a complex system of government was devised to protect our citizens from harmful elements, including themselves. Now, after the discovery of Hyperlane Network, the finest minds of the United Kerbal States have finished development of the first hyperdrives. The stars themselves are finally within our grasp.
Peace be with you, Coordinator. I am Veer, a prototype synthetic intelligence. My task will be to assist and advise you as we venture beyond.
Tips only.
I will provide tips, explaining only basic functions and tools.
Okay. So that's the tutorial system. You can turn it on to be more extensive if you want, but I've kind of run through it and watched a lot of streams. Fallen Empire is basically, it can appear, they're advanced civilizations that basically they'll from what I understand, they'll sort of ignore you unless you settle next to them, and then they shall bring forth their wrath upon you, and they are terrible to behold. So it's sort of a, look at that, we have a ring. That's very nice looking. You know, this game isn't like a graphical powerhouse, but I do like the way the animation looks for most things. Maybe at some point I would want to make a preset solar system for Kerbal, but for now a random one is just fine. So you can see we've got a gas giant, a molten world. What's here? Okay, that's just its orbit. I think the planets do move too in their orbits. We'll have to see. Liguria? Yeah, we've already named the planets in our home system. Very cool. And do we have any asteroid belt? Doesn't look like it. Which is too bad. That's where you can get a lot of minerals there, I would imagine. Okay, so I'm gonna put a YouTube cut here. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode as we begin the Kerbal Space Program Empire.